Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And oh my goodness, already I do see people making some subscriptions right over here. Thank you so much, JF. And also thank you all so much for the birthday wishes. Yes, I can pretty much start things off by saying that I had an amazing weekend. I made the most out of my time with my birthday. And honestly, it was a pretty simple weekend, but still, though, it was just a beautiful time that I was able to spend with my family. And overall, I feel like with me being 32 now, it's off to a wonderful start. And also, I just want to point out, if you are watching this, then you may have noticed that right behind me, the environment is a lot more different than how it was before. And, oh wow, did I just get another new fish over here? Just want to go and double check to make sure, or I don't know, maybe I just saw something. But anyways, back to what I was saying. Yes, right behind me over here, it is completely different, and that is because, well, funny enough, on my birthday, the renovation project is officially complete, or at least in terms of my side over here. And also, you know, just to give you a little bit of a better view of it, I'll go and try to, hold on a sec, let me just go and close off the filter over here. So, as you could see, yes, right behind me, this is also my gaming room, by the way. This is pretty much where I also do my live stream. So when I want to do Let's Plays and stuff like that, well, it's kind of convenient to have the streaming computer next to all this. So just thought I would go and show you what is unexpectedly my biggest project of the year. So honestly, I am very proud with what I've done with all this. I'm really happy with my weekend, and overall, I'm just back to have things back to normal. But anyways, speaking of which, what we are about to get into is going to be anything but normal. I got a whole bunch of stories here that we are going to go and cover, and trust me, it will be a crazy time over here in this podcast, and I can guarantee you that this will be a lot of fun. So with that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to go and ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? All right, let's see what we got here. Yes. Oh, people are prepared. People are ready. That is beautiful to see. And I do believe, with that said, since we are all ready, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story the first story that I have for you all today, we are going to be starting off with a trailer, but not just any trailer, but a trailer for a Disney Plus documentary. Now, I have previously stated that I do find the documentaries on that platform to be pretty underrated, a lot of which are not just good, but they're also really great. But on top of that, just recently, we did see a Disney Plus documentary that really got popular and got a lot of praise as well, which is Jim Henson Idea Man. Now, I have done a review of it, of course, and while I don't think it is an amazing documentary, because obviously there were a few things that Disney obviously let out, it is still very solid nonetheless, and the team that Ron Howard accumulated in order to create this, they did a great job with it. And not only that, but I do think it is well deserved to have all those Emmy wins as well, including for Best Documentary. So with that said, with this new one that I have here, well, we shall see if they can go and recreate that magic with what they did with Jim Henson, but now towards another Hollywood legend. So with that said, let us go and begin with our first story, as we are going to be checking out the trailer for the upcoming Disney Plus documentary, Music by John Williams.
The greatest way to demonstrate how much music affects movies, play it absolutely with no music at all.
And that is Music by John Williams, to which it will be premiering on Disney Plus on November 1st. So let me just go and place it beautifully right over here so that we get a good view of the title. Now, honestly, when it comes to John Williams, it is safe to say that he is the biggest name when it comes to movie composition, or when it comes to composers who work on movies and stuff like that. Like, the number one name that you would immediately think of, most likely it would be John Williams, considering that he has worked on so many movies in which the music of it, or at least its theme song, has become so well known and so popular. It has pretty much become to the point where just about everybody on Earth knows at least one piece of music that was composed by John Williams, considering that he is the man who did the music for Jaws, for Indiana Jones, for Star Wars, for E.T., for Jurassic Park, for, as they said here, Earthquake, Poseidon Adventure, Home Alone, Harry Potter, Superman, and so much more. Like, there are so many themes that have become some of the most well-known songs and some of the most well-known pieces of music in cinema history, and they were all done by John Williams right over there. And one thing, by the way, I just want to go and quickly comment something a little bit funny about like this trailer right over here, because like we do hear pieces of his music, of course. Like we hear a bit of Superman, we hear a bit of Jaws, and we even heard Jurassic Park as well. And I will say it is a little bit odd but funny at the same time, where you would hear that, but then at the same time, like as all these interviews would occur, like there's that Disney Plus logo that they have over here. Like there's something about it that feels a little bit out of place, because it is true that considering that it is like a lot of these films are from Steven Spielberg. So from there, a lot of these pieces of music are technically from Universal. And yet we're going to hear a whole bunch of them along with their clips on Disney Plus. So there is kind of like that funny unusualness to it, but still though, like it is very much understandable, because if you're going to talk about John Williams and the music he has done, you have to talk about those films. It can't just be Disney related like Indiana Jones and Disney. You do have to go into things like Superman, or you would also have to talk about things like E.T. or Jaws or Jurassic Park and stuff like that. So you got to go into those. But I will say though, and also I do see many people in the chat. They have been mentioning a lot of other movies that John Williams has done as well, that he has worked on. Of course, there is Schindler's List, The Adventures of Tintin, very underrated. AI, Artificial Intelligence, Catch Me If You Can, Artificial Intelligence, the movie, by the way, just to let you know. So yeah, there's definitely a whole lot that John Williams has done. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, people are also mentioning. So, like, this is pretty much a big example of the kind of impact that John Williams has done in cinema with his music composition. Like, he really is that legendary of a composer. And yet, this is honestly why I am very much excited for this documentary. Because as much as we know his music, we don't necessarily know a lot about the man himself. Like, we don't know, like, it's not necessarily as publicly well known when compared to the people that he has collaborated with, like, compared to Steven Spielberg or George Lucas. We don't necessarily know a whole lot about John Williams himself. We don't know about his life, about what inspired him, that got him into music, or seeing his career like grow to become what it is today. We don't necessarily know a whole lot about that. So for me personally, what I really am excited about is to learn more about John Williams, the man, because we all know about John Williams, the music, but now I want to see how it is coming from John Williams, the guy himself. And I know this is going to be something that will be provided with a lot of love, because I don't know if you have noticed, but right at the beginning, you do see the companies that are going to be working on this. So let me just see if it's in the right position or if it's in the right place, because I know there is an area where suddenly you see, yeah, okay. Yeah, there we go. It's right over here, like Lucasfilm, Aardman, and Imagine. So you got so of course, like with Amblin, you got Steven Spielberg, who is going to be directly involved on this, and most likely, like, he is one of the producers. And not to mention that you also have Imagine documentaries, and those are the same people who actually worked on Jim Henson Idea Man. So hopefully what we will see, like that creativity in terms of the presentation that was on Jim Henson Idea Man, we can also go and see some of that on music by John Williams. So it's already giving me a whole lot of confidence. Yes, technically this is Ron Howard's production company, or at least in terms of the documentary side of things. So yes, he will also have a hand in working on this as well. So overall, though, I don't know if there's really a whole lot else that I could go and discuss about this, but yeah, this is all pretty much to go and say that I'm very much excited to see this documentary, especially to learn a lot about John Williams, considering that he is one of, if not the biggest name in movie music history. I would love to learn more about like who this guy is and like his career, considering how he is he's pretty much an absolute legend, like as much as the people that he has worked with, like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. And you know that this won't just be a documentary, but this is going to also be this massive love letter to a massive love letter to the man himself. So very much I was already very impressed with what Disney Plus and Imagine Documentaries has presented with Jim Henson Idea Man. So hopefully they could go and recreate that same magic for John Williams. And also, oh, by the way, just one more reminder that if you are interested in checking out music by John Williams, then keep in mind that it will be coming soon on Disney Plus on November 1st. And with that said, now I would like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the trailer that we have seen here with music by John Williams? Are you guys excited to see this documentary? Is there something that you want to learn about John Williams that hopefully that the documentary would go and discuss? Let me know what you all think. And on top of that, might as well go and make a little bit of a poll to go and see how your curiosity is. So let me just go right over here, and I will go and ask, will you be watching music by John Williams? So that will be yes and no. So let's go and ask that question here. All right, but anyways, let's see what the chat wall has to say now. John Williams' music is basically the soundtrack of my life. When I get excited about anything, I use his music to get 10 times more excited. I know this documentary will definitely be amazing, and having everyone from Steven Spielberg, J.J. Abrams, and Ron Howard will make this documentary even better. It can't be Spielberg with Williams, or it can't be Spielberg with Williams without Williams, or Williams without Spielberg. All right, I get what you mean right now. Okay, let's see. John Williams' music redefines film scores, so I am excited for this. I agree that documentaries on Disney Plus are incredibly underrated, and I'm glad we're getting more of them, especially after how Jim Henson Idea Man netted Disney loads of Emmys. It's kind of weird to hear the Superman theme in a movie made by the company that owns Marvel, but Zaslav may help to change that. But I know the toxic Star Wars fans will hate the movie because Kathleen Kennedy and Rey Skywalker are going to be in it. Well, I mean, that's that's unavoidable, and I mean, all you can do is just ignore the trolls, let them have their little temper tantrum over stupid little things. But I will say, though, I mean, like, at this point, if we are going to talk about Star Wars, especially like the history of it, then of course you do have to acknowledge the sequel trilogy and also Kathleen Kennedy's involvement, considering that she has been there since just about the very beginning of Star Wars. So that's pretty much inevitable. John Williams is one of the greatest film composers of all time, if not the greatest. His works are among the most iconic scores in film history, and it's going to be so interesting learning about the man behind the soundtrack. Also, the way you said Aardman instead of Amblin makes me think he's composing the new Wallace and Gromit movie. Imagine that. Oh, did I say Aardman? Oh God, I'm so sorry. I meant to say Amblin. Oh wow, I'm surprised I didn't even catch myself. But then again, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Imagine like Aardman would make their they would make like whatever new movie coming out, whatever like stop motion movie, or maybe the next Wallace and Gromit film, and it would be composed by John Williams. Like, I mean, that is not a bad idea. Like you could pretty much count that as like a happy little accident. Yeah, I did a little bit of a slip up, but I mean, the idea in itself is not a bad idea right there. You got to give me that. Okay. Anyways, let's see. I am so excited to see this documentary about this legendary composer. He is the man who did the music behind Star Wars, Close Encounters, Superman, Jaws, Indiana Jones, E.T., Home Alone, Harry Potter, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, AI, and recently The Fabelmans. I can't wait to see more about his music and his personal life and collaborations with directors like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. All right, and by the way, it is also worth noting that apparently the grand majority of you are definitely excited to see this documentary. About 86% who have voted has said that yes, they will be watching music by John Williams. So already there seems to be a good amount of hype for it already. All right, let's see. What else can we find here? As someone who really admires the music of John Williams, this is very exciting, considering how we know his and the man who has made the music for some of the most iconic music of all time, for some of the most iconic movies of all time. It will be interesting to see how he is and see who he is and how he got into composing music. So overall, this is very exciting. Also, in your opinion, what's your favorite score that John Williams has done? Oh, that is a good question. I never really thought about that. I mean, there's a lot that he has done that is so great. But if I would have to go and pick a favorite, honestly, I would probably go with E.T. I like, honestly, it's the closest that it's like the closest to Disney music without actually being Disney music. Like, it has that right amount of like wonder and whimsy that I think really helps like spark the magic that movies can go and create. So honestly, I think I'm going to go with E.T. I mean, technically there is also Close Encounters, because literally a fun fact, like if you stick around in the credits of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you could actually wait a little bit at the end, and then he puts in a little piece that pretty much is When You Wish Upon a Star. In fact, I don't know, like, honestly, it's been a while since I've seen that movie, but I do remember that, at least in the credits, they do play a bit of When You Wish Upon a Star. All right, let's see what other comments are there. I think I'll read two more, and then we'll go on to our first break. John Williams is truly a giant in the movie music world. His list of works is almost immeasurable just in that media. He is also easily in my top 10 movie composers, which includes Joe Hisaishi, Danny Elfman, the Sherman Brothers, John Barry, Howard Shore, Bernard Herrmann, Nino Rota, and also the two classic guys, Alfred Schneidke and Sergei Prokofiev. Hopefully I said that right. By the way, that Schnitt guy wrote music for the most surreal short out there, The Glass Harmonica, in 1968. You got to check it out sometime, Matt. All right, I'll go and I'll keep that in mind. Let's see, what else? Oh my God, what a trailer. The music, the execution, everything is just wow. I recognize John Williams for his music, like I mentioned, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Harry Potter, E.T., and does the singing voice for the adult Simba for The Lion King. Wait, did he? Honestly, I don't know if I can confirm that, but anyways, I usually don't really watch documentaries much, but this will get a good kick out of me. All right, so I definitely do see a whole lot of hype that is going on. Yeah, I think, someone got a I think there's a little bit of a mistake. I think, okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. The singing voice of adult Simba in The Lion King is actually Joseph Williams, not John Williams. I think you got a little bit of that little, or someone is mentioning Jason Weaver as well. Actually, let me go and, you know what? I'm the animation research guy. Let me go and actually look that up just to go and have that correction of adult Simba, the Lion King, just to be sure. Okay, it's Joseph Williams. Okay, it definitely is Joseph Williams who did the singing voice of adult Simba. All right, just to go and be clear, and just to let you know, like, this is the confirmation right over here. All right, so anyways, we're gonna go. Oh, and one more thing, by the way, if you are all excited once again to go and check out Music by John Legend, then keep in mind that it will be on Disney Plus on November 1st. Now, we're gonna go on to our first break, and when we do come back, we are gonna go and check out a newly announced movie that's gonna be coming out. Yes, it is going to be another one of those live-action remakes of animated projects, but this time around, this is not from Disney. This is going to be a live-action movie based on a Nickelodeon show. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, this is something that when I saw this news, I honestly felt a little bit afraid. I wasn't sure of what would be the possible outcome because, let's be honest, it won't be until a few years when this would officially be released. But still, though, I can't help but worry about what would be the prospects of this idea. And I will be mentioning this a little later as well, but I am aware this is not necessarily the first time that the studio was trying to do something like this. But still, though, the fact that they want to take another shot at this kind of attempt, boy, it just makes me wonder, is it really worth it? Well, let's go and find out as we will go and talk about the prospects of a live-action Rugrats movie. Yes, Paramount has announced that they will go and try to go and take the beloved Nickelodeon series Rugrats and try to turn that into a live-action CG hybrid movie. Now, of course, a whole lot of it is going to be in live action, which is why many people would refer to it as the live-action Rugrats movie. But when it comes to the CG elements, it actually is confirmed from other sources that apparently the CGI is going to be the babies themselves. No, it doesn't look like they're going to do exactly like what they did with Baby Geniuses and stuff like that. They're going to go and take characters like Tommy, Chucky, Phil and Lil, and maybe Angelica, and they will go and make them into CG characters, like entirely CG. Now, when it comes to the information that we have on this new movie, honestly, it's not really that much, since this is still very early in production. but we do know some of the people who will be working on it, or at least the main people who will be in charge. First off, the director is actually going to be Jason Moore, whom you probably know best as the director of Pitch Perfect. And from there, we also got the writers here, which is stated to be Streeter Seidel and also Saturday Night Live star Mikey Day. So those two are going to be working on the script of this. And as for the producer, we also have, where does it say? Yes, right over here. Apparently Karen Rosefeld is going to be producing, along with two of the creators of the Rugrats, which is Arlene Klasky and Gabor Ksupo. Oh boy. Yeah, I know, like, with Klasky Ksupo, it's like not easy to go and pronounce, so I just wanted to go and make sure I said that right. But yeah, like, if there is one thing that is a bit reassuring with this project, is that at the very least, they do have two of the creators that will be working on this movie to ensure that they still have the authenticity of the Rugrats. But is that actually going to happen? Well, honestly, again, we don't know. It is still pretty early in production, and we have even yet to receive a release date of when this is going to be coming out. All we know so far is just some of the main people who will be working on this, and the fact that this is going to be a live-action CG hybrid. Now, let me just go and start off by saying that, honestly, I actually grew up with the Rugrats. I would actually consider them to be one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows alongside SpongeBob. As a kid, I used to regularly watch the Rugrats with all the crazy adventures they would go to. I also have, honestly, I have a lot of heart or a lot of fondness for Rugrats in Paris the movie. I remember watching it as a kid in theaters and also rewatching it again and again. And even looking back at it, it's surprisingly a really good movie. But yeah, I've been following the Rugrats for like a few years during my childhood, or even several years. Like, I even saw like the period when they included Dill, and then I saw the period where they also included Kimmy. And I'll even admit, I did watch a little bit of All Grown Up, where I was curious to see them becoming young teenagers, but let's just say that it definitely did not hold a candle compared to the original Rugrats. But admittedly, there are some things that I have yet to go and fully watch from the Rugrats. I didn't literally see everything from them. Like, I didn't see Rugrats Go Wild, or I didn't even watch, admittedly, I didn't even see any of the episodes of the 2021 movie. But this is all pretty much to say that I am a fan of Rugrats. And when I did hear about this news right over here, like I said at the start, I was honestly in the mood of like, should I be scared of this? I feel like I should be scared, because I don't know if I do like the idea of hyper-realistic CGI babies pretending to be the Rugrats. Like, I don't know if I really want a hyper-realistic CGI Tommy Pickles. There's just something about that. It honestly feels a little bit off. It just sounds a little bit strange right over there. And yes, I am fully aware that this is not the first time that Nickelodeon and Paramount wanted to go and do something like this. Trying to create this live-action Rugrats movie has been going on for quite some time. I'm not 100% sure on when exactly did they start trying to do this. I did hear some people say like the first attempt was like back in 2018 or 2016, or even as far back as 2010 or something like that. Chat wall, feel free if you want to correct me on this to know like when is it accurate that they wanted to go and start that. And yeah, some people are even mentioning, well, yeah, I think it's for sure Spike is also going to be involved in this as well. But I mean, Spike is just going to be like a regular CG dog. So, I mean, like, we've already got a whole bunch of those, so it doesn't necessarily matter all that much. Yeah, some people are apparently leaning in more towards 2018, so that seems to be the date on when they started considering that. And I know that at one point, at least the first attempt didn't really work out, And eventually, the attempts evolved into the CG Rugrats reboot that we do have today. So from there, I know this is not the first time, but it seems that with this announcement, it looks like they don't want to give up on it, that they really do think that, oh, we got some real potential right over here. We're going to go and actually make this live action Rugrats movie. We need to have a live action Rugrats movie because we know we've done it a few times of taking Nickelodeon cartoons and bringing them into live action. And I think Rugrats is definitely going to fit the bill on that. But still, though, I just gotta say, like, the one thing that freaks me out and has me so concerned is just the concept of it, of having this live action CGI Rugrats movie. How do you pull that off? Or how are you gonna go and pull that off that isn't uncanny? Like, how are you gonna do the CGI, by the way? Because, like, okay, it's one thing to go and do the 2021 reboot. And I will give it that it doesn't look that bad. It is able to do well to go and translate the 2D designs from the original series and bring that into 3D. All right, that's perfectly okay. But then when you try to add live action into the mix and when you have no choice but to do realism, what are you going to do at that point? Are you going to go and try to make like realistic CG babies but have them move around like crazy? Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, when I would go and think of that, how are you going to go and pull them off? Because trust me, CG babies are not as attractive or as cute as they would be in real life. Because honestly, in my mind, the only imagery that I can have is if you would take like CGI hyper-realistic babies, try to make them be like Rugrats, and you're just going to have like an hour and a half or maybe close to 2 hours of just them going around like, what? Tommy! Tommy! I don't know, Tommy! You know what I mean? It's just, it's an idea that I cannot necessarily imagine. And one thing and by the way, I do see some people in the chat wall, they are mentioning some examples of, some examples of like movies that actually do have some CGI babies, such as Baby Geniuses, or a very prominent example, Son of the Mask, which, yeah, that is honestly so far the biggest example of trying to make a hyper-realistic CGI baby and have him be all cartoony and stuff like that. And as we probably know, it's almost unanimous to say that it looks like a complete nightmare. And I wouldn't be surprised if they would go and do the same thing with Rugrats. Now, there is one thing that I will say, though. As much as I am framing this to be this absolute disaster, there is one thing that I do want to give credit to Paramount. And that is right now, they are doing a better job when it comes to taking their familiar IPs and turning them into movies or turning them into different projects. Right now, we have actually seen some very good results, and some of the best movies from Paramount right now is when they would go and try to adapt new versions of animated IPs. Like last year, we had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, and that is often agreed to be one of the best versions from the entire franchise. Or then, just recently, we had Transformers 1, and that movie was absolutely awesome, and some people are going as far and say that it is the best Transformers movie that we have so far. And then there is also, and I know this one is like kind of debatable or very debatable, but there's also the Netflix Avatar: The Last Airbender series. And I know that not many people like it, and like some people would either like, it's one of those things that either people love it or hate it. But then again, we can all agree Definitely better than the M. Night Shyamalan movie. And some people are even bringing up other examples, such as the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, or Dora and the Lost City of Gold. That is another pretty solid example right there. So, and even the recent Blue's Clues movie is another one. So, all this to pretty much say that, at least right now, Paramount is getting better and better when it comes to adapting their animated IPs and bringing them to new life into a movie or this big budget series. So they are improving, that is for sure. And there is a likelihood that maybe we will be seeing the same thing with the live action Rugrats movie. I mean, yeah, sure, the concept sounds frightening, and I mean, it sounds like something that could lead to a disaster, but there could be that chance that maybe it could turn out to be good, that they do have an idea of what they want to do, and it could actually turn out to be fun and enjoyable and capture the spirit of what the original Rugrats was. So I am open to that possibility because, let's be honest, we never know how it's going to be until it officially comes out. But I will say, though, looking at this right now, seeing what the concept is and knowing what we know now with it, yeah, this is a pretty frightening idea. Honestly, I'm just very worried of how the babies are going to look like, how they are going to move, or let alone who's going to be among the cast. Like, I don't know what direction that Paramount is going to go with this. Like, are they going to bring in the original cast to do this? Like, are we going to have E.G. Daily playing as Tommy and Nancy Cartwright as Chucky and stuff like that? Or are we going to get celebrity voices? Like, is Tommy going to be voiced by Aquafina or something like that? Are we going to see something like that occur? That is also something I don't know, and that's also going to be like another can of worms that we would have to go and deal with later on. But overall, there's just so many of this. It's troublesome. It's just very worrying. And, I do see a lot of you people, you did enjoy the little gag right there, because so far, in my mind, and for many other people's minds, so far, the imagery that we have so far of this Rugrats series is pretty much nothing but So yeah, try to prove me wrong, Paramount. Try to go and show me that this Rugrats movie is not going to be that. At least try to prove me wrong. And I am hoping that you can prove me wrong. Otherwise, oh boy. Yeah, good luck with the next cinematic disaster that you may have. Like, it could be a chance that this is a live action remake that can make Disney know what they are doing with theirs. All right, so with that said and done, now I would like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask, what do you all think of this live action CGI hybrid Rugrats movie? Do you think there is a chance that it could be good? Do you think this is already terrible and it's already hopeless? Let me know what you all think. And at the same time, I might as well go and write down a poll right over here just to go and ask you all. Actually, hold on. Let me just go and make the poll here. And let me go and ask, do you think the live action Rugrats movie is gonna be good? So I'll write down yes, and then I'll write down no. All right, so let's see how things are gonna go with that, and let me look into the chat wall right over here. All right, okay. I want to ask Jason Moore about the Rugrats movie. Why are you doing the live action film based on a beloved Nicktoons show? And why are the main babies going to be CG? How the real people going to interact with the CG babies? If the CGI baby's going to be like Ugly Sonic or the Pinky Sheep from the upcoming Minecraft movie, then I don't know what to say about it. This is the trend of ugly cartoony characters like Garbage Pail Kids that Hollywood executives love for whatever reason. Yeah, it's becoming more and more of a thing. But then again, to give Paramount credit, in their defense, We don't know what the CGI babies are going to look like. So far, we just have the concept of it. And I think that, like, what makes this so scary is what we don't know. Like, we only got words of what is being described of what will be to come. We will only have our answers when there is going to be a trailer that's going to be coming out. And at this point, I don't think we're going to have it. Like, if the production is still going, if this is going to happen, then I don't think we're going to see it until, like, the next 3 or 4 years. 2, if we are really lucky. So I think we'll have to go and wait and see. But yeah, I think, like, the thing that makes it so frightening is the element of what we don't know. All right, so let's see now. Rugrats, much like something like Minecraft, is something I think can't work as a live-action CGI hybrid. And while I don't think the idea is 100% dead on arrival, I do think this idea is 70% dead on arrival. I'm not even entirely sure why they can't do a new animated film. But if they don't go full Ugly Sonic and have a decent idea for it, maybe it could work. I'd say it can't be worse than when they made a live-action Fairly Odd Parents, but nah, it cannot be as bad as Fairly Odder. That was next level bad. Yeah, okay, yeah, that is true. Like, the Fairly Odder is like next level horrible. Like that was one of those, like, what the fridge were you even thinking when you were making this? Did you even try? Like, it was legit that bad. So I don't think even this Rugrats movie would even get down to that godforsaken level. Let's see what else we got here. As a lifelong Rugrats fan, this concept got me a bit concerned that the live-action CG hybrid would make it feel inferior to the original show. I've heard of past concerns that several movies, particularly Baby Geniuses and Son of the Mask, had a similar premise and had their execution failed to the max. But I hope that with some of the original creators involved, they'll do their best to help maintain as much as what we love about the OG show as possible. Exactly, and that's probably the saving grace of it, is the fact that we do have the original creators who will be hands-on and involved in this as the producers. So hopefully they will go and try to salvage this idea as much as possible to make it not sound like an absolute nightmare. And by the way, it looks like, well, most of you really don't like this idea, as 82% of you who have voted have said that, no, there is no chance that this live-action Rugrats movie is gonna be good. I mean, again, I am open to the possibility that it might, but so far from the concept and how it sounds, I do not blame you. All right, let's see what other comments do we have. Even as someone who grew up watching Rugrats, this is a terrible idea. The fact that Paramount still wants to move forward with this, even after we thought it was dead, it just feels like an attempt for Nickelodeon to capitalize on Rugrats even more. So overall, this is a terrible idea. Seriously, it just raises the question, if people didn't like the idea 6 years ago, then what makes Paramount and Nickelodeon think people would approve it now? Exactly. I think, and you know what? I just had a flash. Like, I just had a thought of this. But honestly, I think, like, it honestly depends on how the new management is going to feel about this. Because that's a very significant thing, that very soon, like in several months from now, it will be under new management under Skydance, with the Ellison family being in charge. So you never know if there's going to be something that will really change things up, and maybe they'll try to go and shut things down on this production, or they'll help update it that maybe it could make things better, maybe it could make things worse. But that's also another thing that we have to go and keep in mind, is that it is true that later on, it will be under new management, and the Paramount we know today is never going to be the same. So honestly, it is worth discussing right now, but still though, that doesn't necessarily mean that in the future, we will be seeing this movie actually come to life. We don't know if the new bosses would actually want a live action CG hybrid Rugrats movie. That's going to be also another major determining factor on rather if we're going to have it or not, or how good it's going to be if it does get made. All right, let's see what it was. Matt, I think you just went and created a new meme in regards to your live action Rugrats reaction, because as far as I'm concerned, I think that explains the situation of this idea in a nutshell. But you sound like you're giving this idea some hope. So who am I to think that this might be a bad idea? Still, I probably prefer some of their successful movies over this worrying idea anyways. And yes, that includes the Quiet Place movies. Yeah, honestly, I do get it. I do understand that there are many other ideas that we would rather see Paramount go and actually do instead of something like this. But still, though, again, this is all just a concept of it. This is still very early in production, and we have to be open to the idea that there is a possibility that maybe in the future, this could actually turn out to be a pretty good movie. If not, well, I mean, who knows, man? I mean, like at the very least, they would try. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment one or two more comments before we go and jump onto our next break. Let's see here. Okay, the idea of CGI babies sounds like a terrible idea. So CG Rugrats didn't work. Maybe we could do live action. Honestly, on one hand, we could go with a lot of babies and toddlers for being treated poorly. On the other hand, look at the dog from Call of the Wild. All CG, no dog. What if they just scan babies and use their bodies and faces for AI? You know, the biggest fear for actors, except it's a bunch of unknown babies. Honestly, I really don't know right there. Like that, again, that is something that we'll have to wait and see when the production does continue. Anyways, let's see here. The idea of this isn't exactly bad, but when you dive further into this, it can make people shiver. The idea of CGI humans in live action flicks are always ugly as hell, and I am wondering who will be the cast of Chucky, Tommy, Angelica, and the twins, Phil and Lil. Maybe they could take cues from Disney for the CGI. Oh wait, never mind, the last part, they can get freaky. Yeah, exactly. I feel like the worst case scenario is that we're gonna have like a baby version of the of those you know those Robert Zemeckis motion capture films, you know, stuff like Polar Express or Mars Needs Moms or Beowulf and stuff like that. Oh boy, like I don't know how they're gonna pull off the CG, but yeah, safe to say I'm open to the idea that it could be good, but it definitely has me worried. All right, so with that said, we are going to go on to our next break, and we're going to have a little bit of a refresher of what we just talked about, and we will be discussing about a movie that we will see they're going to have some new crazy ideas, but this has a lot of strong potential, so we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, I know that many of you watching or listening might have a little bit of shivers from hearing about the prospects of what could be to come with that live-action CGI hybrid Rugrats movie. But don't you worry, I actually got something that would be perfect to go and wash off that concerning taste. One in which the more you look into it and the more that you see of what they could do with it, actually may have some strong potential. In fact, whenever this may come out, it could turn out to be a big highlight of that year. And ironically enough, this is going to be brought to us by Warner Brothers, specifically Warner Brothers and DC. Yes, Warner Brothers Pictures Animation and DC Studios has announced a brand new animated feature called Dynamic Duo. And to give you all a little bit of a description of what this is about, I will go and read you here from my source on Deadline, as it states here. The Six and Idaho movie, scripted by Matthew Aldrich, is being made by a new animation studio out of New Orleans named Swaybox, and that studio's husband and wife creators, Arthur Mintz and Teresa Anderson. Mintz will direct this movie, which follows the early days of Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, aka the Robins. So you guys probably know Batman's sidekick Robin. Well, two of them, specifically, as it says here, Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, are now going to be working together as the titular dynamic duo. But the interesting thing about that, actually, before I get into what I will be talking about, it is worth noting, considering that this is a 6 and Idaho movie, this is also going to be brought to us by Matt Reeves. But with that said, though, even though Matt Reeves is technically going to be working on another Batman movie, this doesn't mean that this is going to be his Batman movie. It even clarifies here that dynamic duo will not be connected to the Batman or the Penguin whatsoever. It's not a part of that timeline. This dynamic duo movie is going to be its own thing. However, back to what I was originally talking about, the thing that really caught a lot of people's attention with this is not necessarily going to be the fact that this is another animated Batman movie or another animated movie that is set in the Batman universe. It has nothing to do with DC, but rather it's actually the animation that's capturing people's attention, mainly because of the fact that it's going to try to do something very different and very new. So if I may go down into my source here, it actually says that Swaybox uses a technology known as Momo animation, which is a cross between CGI animation, practical effects of stop motion, and live action real-time performance, which in this case, it's not necessarily like motion capture, it's actually puppetry. So yes, this is a combination of CG, stop motion, and puppetry. The result is long-form storytelling, billed as visually breathtaking, dynamically expressive, and more human. And so from there, they even added that in terms of the producers, yes, Matt Reeves is definitely going to be one of them, and even Arthur Mintz's wife, Teresa Anderson, will be a producer, and of course, the heads of DC Studio, James Gunn and Peter Safran, will all be producing this feature. And we even got a quote here from Matt Reeves himself, as he states, "I have wanted to make a film with Arthur and Swaybox for many years, and for that film to be dynamic duo, an incredibly special and unique Batman and Robin story for families, it is a dream." So this is all to go and highlight how they're going to go and try to create a very unique animated feature with dynamic duo that will be starring two of the most popular Robins in the Batman lore. So honestly, this is one thing that actually feels very curious to know what they are going to do, especially when it comes to Robin. We have seen tons of different versions throughout the years, and some can be drastically different compared to the others. And even just in animation alone, we have seen a variety of different Robins, and like even some that are in live action, they could also bring out some unique Robins that could really differentiate from one another. And I mean, it's not just like the holy whatever object they could think of or whatever phrase they would think of in the days of the 1960s live action Batman show. Like, we have also seen Robin in the 2003 Teen Titans series, you know, the one that is the more responsible leader. Or then we would have a more goofball version in Teen Titans Go. Or we would have the happy-go-lucky little orphan, like in the Lego Batman movie as well. There are many different directions that you could take with Robin that you can go and create. Some that can be comic accurate, or some that it could be more of its own thing. You can make him a little bit more playful, a bit more comical, a bit more childlike, or you can have him a bit more edgy, a bit more like Batman, who can also be dark and brooding in his own way with his orphan-like story. About to choke on my own spit right over here. What the fridge? But anyways, you guys get what I mean. With Robin, you could go in many different directions. But again, the big thing to go and focus is in regards to the animation style. The fact that they are going to go and blend in CGI, stop motion, and puppetry. Now, I know it sounds a bit confusing, and it's like not that easy to go and imagine what they could go and do. Because, like, if you would try to go and think of something that would be like that, it's hard to really know what would be the answer. Maybe it's going to be something like what we have seen in the Dark Crystal series. Like, maybe there'll be that mix of puppetry and CG and stuff like that. But then you have to also include the stop motion, and how does that fit into the mix? Well, we actually do have an example of what it may actually look like. There is, like, maybe you have seen this on social media that's been going around, but we actually did, well, for me, I did find this little clip here, and this is from Reddit, and they actually showed a minute of the, a minute of a demo reel of what their animation can do at Swaybox. Like, what is this Momo animation? And what you will see here is actually them recreating two different scenes, one from the Iron Giant and the other from the Rescuers Down Under. One to go and explore how they will go and play around with the characters, and then another to show how they can go and create action scenes. So let's go and actually check this out. Oops, sorry about that. It would require some volume as well, so let's go and have a listen as well.
Oh my god. Oh my god. We thank you for the food that Mom has put in front of us, and stop the devil from doing bad things, and get out of here, Satan.
Man, I honestly, just by looking at this, even though like there is that explanation of like, oh, you know, we're gonna mix CG, we're gonna go and mix stop motion, we're gonna mix puppetry. It's one of those things, like, I look at this and I'm wondering, like, how the fridge did they do that? Like, how are they able to go and have like the puppetry movements to capture that realism? How are they able to go and animate the faces? It's like there's a lot of how did they do the hand movements? There's just so much of it that I look at this and I see this and I'm wondering, it's like, how is this done? How are they able to go and pull this off? This is, this is crazy, but at the same time, it is very impressive to go and see. So honestly, I do see what Matt Reeves is talking about on why is it he wants to go and try to make a movie with the people at Swaybox. I could definitely see the potential, and try to do that with a full animated movie. That is honestly going to be very fascinating. Like that, this really does feel like legitimate innovation in animation, where like now you're really like you're pretty much mixing tools to go and create a brand new medium. That's honestly how I feel when I see this animation test and what they might do with this movie. Is that honestly they're going to do something that's going to be like even more awe-inspiring than something like Spider-Verse. Like with Spider-Verse, yeah, like the CG animation is revolutionary, but that's really making the most of what you could do and finding new ways in order to go and animate with CG animation. But with this one right over here, with this Momo animation, like this is like a combination of different things in order to create, again, this new medium of animation. Something that takes realism, but also takes elements of stop motion, of CG, like it's pretty much mixing mediums in order to go and create something new, something that we have never seen before, and try to go and implement that onto a movie. That I feel like is already going to be exciting, and I think that's going to be a major selling point when they will go and produce this movie. Or at the very least, I do hope that this movie does get made, because there is a little bit of that fear that, considering that this is from Warner Brothers, there is that possibility that maybe we will see this be turned into a tax write-off. I mean, I know, like, maybe this might sound a little bit irrational, but it's just based on what we have seen time and time again, from that Batgirl movie to Scoob Holiday Haunt to Coyote versus Acme, and like a bunch of other films that have been turned to tax write-downs that we don't know of. It honestly makes me a little bit worried if this is going to be done in the first place. Honestly, I feel very much excited to see them take this new medium in order to go and turn it into a full-on animated feature with this dynamic duo thing. And hopefully, at the same time, of course, they can go and actually create a script that can actually do justice to that animation style, that hopefully they'll provide a script that can be as good as the animation that we are seeing with it so far. But again, the only concern is just, will Warner Brothers actually go and make it, or are they just going to go and pull this project under the rug and just turn it into another tax write-off? That, in my opinion, I am just not really sure. And yeah, maybe it's just a little bit of like, paranoia based on like PTSD of what has occurred with other animated Looney Tunes projects, but I don't know. But for now, I'm just going to remain optimistic about it, and I do hope that this does ultimately come to life, because I really see the potential with this animation, and maybe this could turn out to be amazing, or maybe this wouldn't really be all that much. Maybe the script might spoil this movie a little bit where it wouldn't be as good. But still, though, I do feel this is the kind of animation medium that we should see on the big screen, that should be utilized in order to really level up animation and really redefine what the medium can do in general. So honestly, after seeing that animation test, I'm definitely hyped up to see what they have in store with Dynamic Duo. And with that said, now I would like to go on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what did you all think about Dynamic Duo, like the movie itself, and especially the new animation style are they going to do? Are you guys excited about it? Are you a little hesitant about it? Let me know what you all think. And also, if you are a DC fan, I would love to know your thoughts about how a movie starring two Robins would go. Let me know what you think on that. All right, let's see what we got here. This definitely has a lot of potential. I definitely do like the idea of having a movie starring two of the most popular Robins, and I definitely am looking forward to see how the animation looks to make it look unique. So overall, this is very exciting, and stuff like this makes me excited for DC's future in terms of the movies with James Gunn's new DCU and this, and something to at least pick themselves up after Joker 2's failure. Oh boy, yeah, but we're don't you worry, we're gonna go and talk about that a little later. Anyways, it's animated in a way that pushes the medium in a new direction. It looks to be a promising DC project that will put them on the same level of Marvel, and Warner Brothers is making it? Oh dear, I want to be excited about it, but it sounds like it's marked for death. You can practically hear Zaslav preparing the write-off paperworks. The animation style looks gorgeous, though. If Zaslav does write it off, maybe the studio can work for Disney and Marvel. Oh, that would be like a nice little revenge. Like, you would have Swaybox go and try to make a DC movie, then it gets canceled. Then the next step, make a Disney animated movie, or a Marvel animated movie. Still, though, that would be one heck of a revenge plot right there. Anyways, let's see here. Holy spin-off! How else can you react to an idea like this? Robin was probably way long overdue for a solo, if not spin-off movie of his very own. He's been the leader of the Teen Titans, and he was even a member of the Young Justice team with Batman and other instructing their sidekicks, of course, but now it looks like it's now his time to shine himself. Exactly. I think, honestly, trying to look back, I don't think any of those direct-to-home media DC movies have done anything that actually stars Robin. So far right now, I think the closest we've ever gotten to an actual Robin movie would be the Teen Titans Go movie. Like, yeah, it's the Teen Titans, but technically Robin is like the main character of it, like a guy who just really wants his own movie. So in that regards, yeah, like honestly, I do feel like, yeah, Robin definitely needs like to have his own movie that is just Robin, not associated with the Teen Titans or anything like that. Let's see now. He did it. He finally got his superhero movie. This movie sounds insanely fun, especially since not only is Robin one of my favorite DC heroes next to, well, Batman himself, but the animation sounds absolutely insane. Based on what Swaybox can do, their puppets look like something out of a Leica movie. I'm going to keep my eyes out on this one, so long as the end credit song is that superhero movie song from the Teen Titans Go movie. Full circle, baby! Yeah, I do see what you mean, and you do bring up a good point, and that is actually a pretty solid comparison. Like, just going back into the animation test, you do see a little bit of that, like, Leica style that they have in the animation. Like, yeah, there is a little, like, you can see, like, in terms of some of the craftsmanship, like, maybe with the faces and stuff like that, there is a little bit of that Leica. So I guess, like, if I could do my best to try to describe what this animation style could be, it's kind of like if you mix Leica with Jim Henson, or at least, like, the Jim Henson style puppetry that you would go and regularly see, at least with their more serious stuff, with what they would do with, again, like the Dark Crystal or Labyrinth and stuff like that. I think that's the best way to go and put it. Let's see now. What other comments would there be? I'm gonna say it. I'm liking this idea of two Robins in one movie with a various of animations. I do think DC Studios, or in particular James Gunn and Matt Reeves, are becoming more supportive with the medium of animation by being a new talent and creating new styles for this. I'm wondering that this will be part of the DCU canon, but I'm sure it will be released unlike what happened to Batgirl. Overall, I'm in. Honestly, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to do its own thing. They already stated it's not associated with any of Matt Reeves' Batman movies, and maybe it's not going to be associated with James Gunn's DCU. If anything, I could imagine this is going to be like Spider-Verse, where it's just going to be its own thing. Where Spider-Verse, it's not really associated with either the MCU or even Sony's Spider-Man universe, even though there is like some connections and some references to one another. Like there might be some links, but it's not necessarily a part of the big canon of it all. Let's see, what other comments would there be? What else? I don't know much about the DC lore, but I like the idea of having a feature film starring two Robins, and the animation style that Swaybox is promising is very creative and could feel like an upgraded version of Spider-Verse. However, with how Warner Brothers is handling animation nowadays by turning them into tax write-offs, I have no clue if this will end up seeing the light of day, but overall, this is really a very creative film that they are making here. Oh, definitely, man. Let's see now. In the words of Burt Ward, or something he would say if he saw this, holy innovation, Batman. Like, I only saw just a few seconds of that, and even Jim Carrey would be like, man, that is now impressive. Like, already I'm sold on the visuals, that's for sure. As for the project, does seem like an interesting idea to do something based around Robin. I was kind of hoping for something related to the hero since he often gets sidelined, especially in the movie, but the hope is still there and I couldn't be more excited. Well, I mean, if anything, I could see, like, if they could be very creative with the idea, I can actually see this as like a retrospective to Robin, like kind of looking into the history of Robin throughout his time as like the sidekick of Batman and stuff like that. So there could be a way that Dynamic Duo could be like the ultimate Robin movie. But again, we'll have to wait and see on that. All right, maybe we'll read one more comment before we go on to our next story. So let's see, what else do we have here? What else? Just want to make sure it's okay. I don't think I've no, I think I've read that one. Screw it. I guess I'll go with this. This project is looking fantastic. The animation style is looking very creative, and that Iron Giant and Rescuers Down Under together. And overall, I am so happy that this idea, Warner Brothers, please do this. Speaking of Warner Brothers, have you seen the response of the Minecraft movie crew and the director? Honestly, no, I have not. There's been plenty of other things in my life that I've, that had my attention. So I haven't done that yet, or I haven't seen what that response would be. All right, so we're going to go on to our next break right now. And when we do come back, we will be discussing about toxic fandoms, and more specifically, how Hollywood is trying to go and handle it. And there have been some ways they could go and respond, but at the same time, there are some ideas that they're proposing that it feels like it can only make things worse. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, I know this is a subject that's not necessarily fun to listen to, and it can often be a serious problem, especially for those of you listening and watching. There is a chance that maybe that you have interacted or dealt or have seen this would go and occur, but considering that it has increasingly been more and more of a problem, there was one article on Variety that they decided to go and discuss about this. And there are some things that they have revealed that, while they did present how this situation is very complicated, especially for studios, there are some things that a lot of people did take from this, in which it's not necessarily the best idea that they could go and think of. And with that said, let me go and show you this article here called Toxic Fandom, How Hollywood is Battling Fans Who Are Just Out for Blood, from social media boot camps to superfan focus groups, which is written by Adam B. Very, again, on Variety. And honestly, I gotta say, this is quite a fascinating read, considering that this would go and discuss Hollywood's perspective of trying to deal with toxic fandoms. Pretty much discussing, like, to go and make a long story short, even though I do highly recommend that you would go and actually read this article, because it is very fascinating and does give you like a good point of view of a side that a point of view of the receiving end from toxic fandoms and how that's not necessarily fun to watch. But to make a long story short of it, even though they do acknowledge that toxic fandoms are a very small minority, they do not represent what the fandom can be as an entire whole. And yeah, like those very loud haters, well, I mean, they're next to nothing compared to the overwhelming love that these respective franchises would go and get. But that still doesn't change, though, that because of social media, those hate groups and those toxic fans, their voices would be louder and louder and louder, to the point that it's hard not to go and listen to them. And they would go and try, and this article would go and discuss with some studio executives on how they would try to go and deal with this entire situation, and even bringing up a few examples of toxic fandoms, bringing up the Lord of the Rings series on Amazon, or of course they would bring up Star Wars, like with the sequel series and the stuff they would put out on Disney Plus. Even the most recent example being the Acolyte, or even bringing up stuff like Marvel and several, or even House of Dragons and several stuff like that. And they would go and discuss how when it comes to toxic fandoms, like you're going, like, yeah, there are those that they will be enraged in terms of how they would go and, affect the canon or the lore of what they already know. Like one thing that toxic fans would be so paranoid about would be how this is going to affect the canon, or what would define the story or the lore of the franchise that they are so obsessed about. But then, of course, you would get also these bad faith actors in which they would try to go and turn that into right-wing propaganda, where they would try to use these as examples in order to go and try to spread hate speech, misinformation, and promote harassment as well, which we have seen quite often, unfortunately, when it comes to these toxic fandoms. And just to go and give you an example of some of the things that they would go and actually say, there's like this quote over here from my source on Variety, as it states, "It comes with the territory, but it's gotten incredibly loud in the last couple of years," says a veteran marketing executive at a major studio. "People are just out for blood regardless. They think the purity of the first version will never be replaced, or you've done something to upset the canon of a beloved franchise, and they're going to take you down for doing so." Like, you will be getting those people who would be so, they would be so obsessed with it that if you do something that would go and tamper the image of the franchise in a way that they don't like, well, then they will get triggered and they will react very aggressively. And this is not to mention how they would also go and discuss about other things, like especially from the bad faith actors, whenever you would see a moment of diversity, like when you would see a black person existing, or you would have two people of the same sex that would be kissing and stuff like that, then of course you would get those inevitable review bombs, especially on websites like IMDb, or for the now called popcorn meter on Rotten Tomatoes. So of course you would get like a whole bunch of those for that. And then there's also, this one as well. This is actually, this one right over here is actually another comment that feels very interesting to go and read. "The vast majority of any fandom are casual fans," says John Van Siders, VP of Star Trek brand development, who has been with the storied franchise since the 1990s. "The number of people who live and die on their franchises are very, very few. And then those who come after things that they espouse to love with venom are a really, really tiny subset that are already already a smaller subset of fandoms. It's just much easier to see it now. I don't know that it's really that much broader than where things were in 1995. It's just that the bullhorn wasn't there." And I do understand what they mean. And I feel like in that regards, a big part of that is actually related to social media. Because the thing is right now, with how social media is built, especially with some of the most prominent ones, like with Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, with how their algorithms would go and work, often they would go and encourage and like really put out the ones that would easily get a lot of engagement. And ones that get a lot of engagement are those that would go and promote outrage. So when you would see people getting pissed off, like trying to make mountains out of a molehill regarding whatever they would do on whatever franchise, it's like, there is a woman in my Star Wars and I don't like it. Or, there are two guys that are kissing in my Lord of the Rings and I hate it. Of course, that's going to get a lot of reactions, regardless if they agree with it or not, and they would go and try to promote that, thus making those angry voices louder and louder and louder. So in that regard, social media, with how it is built today, that is a massive problem of it. But then again, that's hard to find out how you could go and try to answer that or find a solution to it, because that's more of an issue with social media in itself, more so than it is with what's going on with the industry, or even with toxic fandoms. But from there, continuing on with this, what this article would go and say. Now, one thing that they mention is that the best solution that they have for this situation. When it comes to toxic fandoms, when it comes to like these angry fanboys ranting about whatever reason may be because of like a tiny nitpick or because they see something that they consider to be woke or whatever dumb bull crap that their disorders get triggered by. From there, they say that the best solution is to just ignore the haters. You know, like we've heard variants of like what that strategy may be. Don't feed the trolls, don't listen to the haters, block the haters, and all that kind of stuff. Basically, the best thing is to do nothing and don't even acknowledge that kind of existence, because eventually the more, like, if you don't acknowledge its existence, then you're pretty much ignoring it, that it's an issue whatsoever, and eventually that thing will just go away and everybody would just go and move on. So ignoring it has often been, and what is now still considered to be, the best solution. But at the same time, they do address some other ideas as well. And one of these is actually to make focus groups specifically with superfans. And yes, and I know like in the chat wall, I do see some people already mentioning about some other examples. And yes, they even mention right over here that like even Ghostbusters 2016 is another prominent example, of course, especially with how Leslie Jones, or is it Leslie Jones? But yeah, with how Leslie Jones was treated, like especially through the racist comments. But anyways, to go and read you a solution that they do have here, those who did talk with Variety all agreed that the best defense to avoid provoking fandoms in the first place, that's basically what I talked about, which is basically ignore the haters. In addition to standard focus groups tests, studios will assemble a specialized cluster of superfans to assess possible marketing material for a major franchise project. They're very vocal, says the studio exec. They will just tell us if you do that, fans are going to retaliate. These groups have even led studios to alter the projects. If it's early enough and the movie isn't finished yet, we can make those kinds of changes. And this is the one that I will say right now that, this is the one that a lot of people have really taken from this article right over here. And that's the one that made a lot of people very much upset. And honestly, I can understand why. Because that honestly sounds like the kind of thing that it's just going to make the situation absolutely worse. Like, I understand the motives of trying to make sure that you can, like, dim down the hatred, you know, to go and try to, like, make the situation of toxic fandoms, try to make them, like, less and less and less and less. But in this case right over here, yeah, like trying to get super fans to go and like try to help you out in the situation, that's not going to make things any better, especially with the fact that how do we define what is a super fan? Because I feel like that can be very broad, as much as to describe what is a fan of something. Because in the case right over here, like if you're going to make a focus group of a super fan of, let's say like Disney wants to make the next big Star Wars thing, and they want to do that focus groups of super fans. Okay, but like which super fans are you going to be bringing in? Because there's a wide variety of superfans for Star Wars. Like, you'll get those superfans that are more into the original trilogy. Then you're going to get those superfans who are more into the prequels. Then you're going to get those superfans that are more into the sequel trilogy. Then you're going to get those superfans that are more into the books. Then you're going to get those superfans that are more into the Clone Wars series. And the list goes on and on. And these, these subsets of superfans, they're not necessarily going to agree with one another. So whatever you may go and get, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go and solve the problem. And not to mention that when it comes to these toxic fandoms, it doesn't matter what you're going to do. They are still going to be pissed off regardless. Honestly, my biggest problem with these super fan groups is that these, like, what they are going to do with it is that it feels like Hollywood desperately wants to try to please everybody, but that is one of those things that's going to please no one. And if you're really going to go out of your way to try to ensure that, let's try to make sure that toxic fandoms are not going to be a thing when we release this. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen, because no matter what, you will be getting toxic fans regardless of what the situation may be. Regardless if they would hate the project or even love the project, that is an inevitable thing. And you have to accept the fact that you can never satisfy everyone. There are going to be those people that will be pissed off about it, and they'll make stupid rants online no matter what. So in that regards, you might as well just go and do whatever you want. Like, if you want to go and include as many like diverse groups of people, you want to include gay people, you want to include people of color or whatever, or include like people with whatever gender, go and do it. Don't let anyone go and actually stop you. It's not actually going to affect your finances, because those toxic people who would have a problem with that, they're a small, insignificant minority regardless. Like, if they have a problem and rant things about woke, go and tell them to take therapy and cure their conservatism. So from there, just do whatever you want. Let the project go and speak for itself. And as long as the project itself is good, then it's going to be far less likely that there will be toxic fans who will go and try to make a complete mess out of it. So honestly, that's just my little piece that I want to go and try to say about the supergroup things, that I hope that's going to be something that they will go and walk back from that idea, because honestly, that ain't going to go and help out. Because yeah, you want to try to do your best to go and please those groups of superfans, but you're always going to have other groups of superfans that are never going to be happy about it, that will be pissed off. And no matter what you do, they're going to find something to go and complain about it and make some kind of freaking epic rant online that the algorithms on social media, that they will be feeding onto it and really giving it attention. So in that regards, why even freaking try? But it is also worth noting, on a side note, that if you go and look over here, they do add in more information of what they can do with the how to go and handle toxic fandoms. Another thing, and this one, honestly, I feel like this is a little bit more understandable than the stupid super fan focus group idea, in which they said here, several studio insiders say they often put their talents through a social media boot camp. In some cases, when a character is intentionally challenging a franchise's status quo, studios will, with the actor's permission, take over their social media accounts entirely. When things get really bad, especially involving threats of violence, security firms will scrub talent information from the internet to protect them from doxing. And they even provided one prominent example of what happened with Moses Ingram a couple of years ago. You may remember when you get all these Trump supporters and anti-woke people that they would really go out of their way to make racist rants and attacks on the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, even down to the point that they would go and make death threats, because we all know how Trump supporters are. When they see a black person, they only wish death upon them. So in that regards, they pretty much had no choice but to go and make a response, because like the death threats and the harassments, it's gone a little too extreme. So that's why you would see the Star Wars social media accounts go and actually make a response to this situation, where even Ewan McGregor himself actually went to go and make a response where they have to go and condemn racism, to go and say that the actions that right-wing people are doing towards Moses Ingram is not okay whatsoever. So there are those extreme cases where, yeah, it could go a little bit too far, to the point that just ignoring it is not the solution, where you have to go and stand up and actually address the situation, to go and call out the bigotry that it is wrong. And they even mentioned that another example is in regards to the Lord of the Rings series, Rings of Power, where, again, you get a lot more Trump supporters and anti-woke people making racist rants because they see elves with different color of skin other than white. So Amazon MGM would go and actually make another statement, and they would go and make a response to go and call that out, and even mention that it actually did work, where by the time season 2 came in, those toxic fandoms are a little less vocal than what they were before. I mean, this is not to say that, right after Rings of Power called out the bigotry and the toxic fandoms and stuff like that, things got a whole lot better. That's not actually the case. That's not what I'm saying. Like, there are still those people who would go and really hate on it, but it's not necessarily because of those bigoted reasons, because of anything related to do with race or gender or sexual orientation or anything like that. So sometimes there are moments where calling out bigotry can actually help out to go and dim down the toxicity that is within fandoms. So overall, I just gotta say that it is interesting to see this article, and I think it is very fascinating with how it does discuss about toxic fandoms, because it can often be this very serious issue, and often can be this massive problem where there are that it could go extreme to the point that it ends up promoting bigotry, it ends up promoting hate speech, it ends up promoting harassment and all that kind of stuff. And it can even put in a position where you would get these nationalists making death threats towards people just for existing in general. And I do understand that it is a massive problem for Hollywood, and especially just a massive problem in general when it comes to trying to deal with toxic fandoms, especially with the way that social media is built. I do sympathize with studios when trying to deal with this, with that kind of situation, because I will admit it is not fun whatsoever. But some of the solutions, there are some that I will give it to them that they do have some good ideas. Yes, ignoring the haters, that is a good one. And then sometimes when things go too extreme, then there are moments when you do have to call out bigotry to say that it is wrong and it is inhumane and it is not normal whatsoever for a human being to have those kinds of hate-filled ideologies. My only criticism is really just the idea of having super fan focus groups. If you could just scrap that idea altogether, it's going to go a lot better and it will save you a lot more time. I'm just saying. So in that regards, I just feel like with this entire case, it is very interesting, and maybe not all of Hollywood's ideas on how to go and combat it. They're not the best ideas and they can make things worse, but I feel like it is kind of interesting to go and look into, especially to see from the receiving end of toxic fandoms. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about this article in regards to toxic fandoms and how Hollywood is trying to go and promote that, or not promote that, but how Hollywood is trying to combat against toxic fandoms? I know there's a lot to go and discuss, but I would like to know what you all think on this. All right, let's see now. I unfortunately have experience seeing toxic fandoms, and while racist a-holes are bad, let's not forget that there are toxic stans who have to attack people who are doing nothing but criticizing the shows they love and treat creators like a holy figure as opposed to treat them as a person with flaws. Case in point, look at the obsessive stans at the Vivzy Pop fandom. Also, while Star Wars fans are bad, let's not forget that Star Trek fans are also bad with how many times they say the new Trek, and suddenly the comment sucks. Oh, no, not the comments suck. The comments stopped. I did not mean the comments sucked. I am so sorry. That's not what I meant, dude. Oh my God, that is embarrassing. But anyway, no, honestly, you are absolutely correct with what you say. The thing is that like, honestly, it's all fandoms. The thing is that yes, every fandom in here is like every fandom in general does have some toxicity, no matter how big or small that they can be. And yeah, there's definitely a whole lot of different examples. It's not just from the major franchises like Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, and what have you. Even the ones online, especially like, and like, yeah, like even within like Vivzy Pop, they can't, like, the Vivzy Pop fandom can have some toxicity in there as well. And even some people even bring up, yeah, there are some Disney fans who can be toxic. And honestly, like you actually do bring up a very good point. That's why, like, honestly, it's a flat out lie to say that the comment sucked. It's honestly a great comment. Because you actually bring up a good point that there are some toxic fans who would be positive, who would try to really defend it and use their love for it to go and attack and to attack whatever. And yeah, that does bring up a good point. Like those who like obsessively love stuff like Has Been Hotel or Hell of a Boss and stuff like that. Like, yeah, there are times when they can be very much toxic to those who would go and not like it or would go and criticize it. So yeah, like that's also another good thing to go and point out, is that the stans can be as toxic as the haters. Let's see. This definitely is a fascinating article. It really does go to show how fandoms are so vile and so disgusting, especially when they want people behind the projects. So it's a mess. And those focus groups on superfans is a terrible idea. I feel like what would happen is that it's going to be no different than what happened with The Rise of Skywalker, where they try to please everyone but please no one. Oh my God, The Rise of Skywalker is probably the best example of that so far. Even though technically, yes, that movie still turned out to be $1 billion hit. And I mean, there are still some good things about it. Like the action is still fun and the visuals are still spectacular. But still, though, the way it really wants to please everybody, like all fandoms and stuff like that, trying so hard to make everybody happy, it just ended up pleasing no one whatsoever. Like, yeah, it ended up really tumbling. It really made the sequel trilogy really tumbled at the end. I was enjoying what they were doing with The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, but then The Rise of Skywalker, it's like, yeah, there ain't no defending on that. Okay, let's see now. A group of 20 pissed off neckbeards who hate everyone who isn't a cis straight white guy shouldn't be given this much power. This sounds like a horrible idea that will usher in the death knell of cinema. Letting a bunch of toxic fanboys who are going to hate on the movies consult on them will solve none of Hollywood's current problems and cause thousands of new problems. The social media protections sounds like a step in the right direction, though. Exactly, like how they're the way they're going out of their way to go and protect the actors and the people involved with the project, that is actually a good idea. That is something I will give credit to Hollywood, that, they are taking the right steps in order to protect the people on those respective projects. Because nowadays we have seen, especially with some of the reactions, like especially with the Acolyte or with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series with Moses Ingram, there are times when they could take things way too far to the point that it would go so extreme that, yeah, like it is good to see that Hollywood can step up to go and protect them from like those extremists. Let's see what other comments. I can't say I don't blame them. I face a lot of fandoms, whether good or bad. I just want to quit all of them, considering that I can't say what I like. Like, I can love Star versus I like Owl House, but I can't have both. All is to say, though, I do see the point. Almost Star Wars had that fate. No matter what it is, whether a movie or a series, you can never satisfy everyone, and even if you try, you will not be satisfied with the changes from the opinions, and might as well never have an idea ever again. Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that, it's just do what you want. Like, honestly, just do what you can and just accept the fact that not everyone is going to like you and not everyone is going to enjoy what you will do. Honestly, the best thing to do is just like, do what you feel like is the best thing and then just go from there. Just hope for the best, really, because you can never predict how people are going to react, or especially you cannot control how people are going to react to whatever project you're going to go and make. So the best thing you can do is just do your best on the project you want to go and create, and then just go from there. See what happens. I think I only have time for one more comment, so I'm just going to go and read and say something about that. Let's see. I think I already read you. Okay, I'll go with this one. What I hate about this is that the studios are giving the toxic fandoms and the anti-woke cult what they want. They shouldn't be getting what they want because they are clearly toxic evil and they should be forever silenced. I hate this. It makes it so hard to enjoy stuff when I'm trying to get away from the horrors of reality. I want LGBTQ plus actors, black actors, and more diverse people in my favorite franchises. Deal with the toxic freaks. Exactly. And like they mentioned, like the anti-woke crowd, those who, the anti-woke crowd, the right-wing Trump supporters who are part of some specific fandoms, or like the viewers of incel YouTubers that promote hate speech and harassment, like the Quartering, Geeks Plus Gamers, the Critical Drinker, and all those like white nationalist YouTubers. Like, they're nothing more but an insignificant minority. Like, yeah, they are extremely vocal, but you just have to keep on pushing through it to just tell them to shut up. And I mean, like, their time on YouTube, it's not gonna last long. I even hear that things are going, like, badly for people like the Quartering, and honestly, they absolutely deserve it. And eventually YouTube will wake up to the, to the notion, or wake up to the reality that what they are doing does break their community guidelines, and that, well, they can no longer make money out of what they do. And hopefully that will come soon. But anyways, we're going to go on to one more break. And when we do come back, we will be discussing about the latest movie that has been released. And let's just say that this is going to be a sequel to a previous story that I talked about in the last episode, where we are going to go and check, but we're going to go and check out the power of the word of mouth. So stay tuned for that. And now, everyone, it is time that we will go and end this episode off with the grand finale. And for this grand finale, we are going to do a sequel to a story that I talked about in the last episode. And I'm not going to lie, I did not expect that I would go and do something like this. Now, in the last episode, we have talked about how The Wild Robot, the latest animated feature, has actually exceeded expectations in terms of how it would do at the box office, and a big part of it is because of the positive word of mouth that it received, considering that many people would go out of their way to go and say that not only is it possibly the best film from DreamWorks Animation, but also the best animated feature of the year, considering even right now, critics have been claiming it as the highest rated animated feature of 2024, which as a result has lended to do extremely well at the box office, down to the point where like a lot of people would think like, okay, maybe it'll just do like 20 million on its opening weekend. Oh no, it actually did 35 million. So it did very well. But what we're going to see, though, is that we will also look into the power of word of mouth, but in a negative way. We have seen how word of mouth can make a movie, especially at the box office, but we can also see what happens, how it can break a movie. And that is especially the case with Joker Folie à Deux. Now, just to let you know, when it comes to Joker Folie à Deux, I think it is safe to say that it was one of the most anticipated movies of the year. I mean, we are talking about a sequel to one of the most successful Batman movies out there, one of which it made over $1 billion. And that was at a time when Disney was just completely dominating the box office. So it was one of those very rare movies of that year that not only became very successful, but was able to go and collect over $1 billion. Now, despite the fact that it was a very divisive movie where there are many people who claimed it to be a masterpiece and others claimed it to be a hot garbage, still, it doesn't change how it was massively successful and how it made Joaquin Phoenix one of the best cinematic versions of the Joker. So, of course, through all that, many people got extremely excited when it comes to the sequel, Joker Folie à Deux, which not only brings back Joaquin Phoenix as Joker, but also with Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. And there's been a lot of discussions in regards to how things are going to be when the movie does come out, or how the movie will be coming out, if it will go and exceed expectations of how the first movie was. Will it be better? Will we see like this great cinematic auteurism be implemented on this movie as well? And even though it wanted to try many different directions, well, in that case, maybe like it's gonna also take a massive risk where it's gonna go a little bit more different with the musical numbers, but maybe that risk could go and pay off. Well, as we have seen over here, the results of it, my God, I think it is safe to say that this is one of the most hated movies of the year. And I'm not just talking about critics, but this is especially with audiences. Because when it comes to the ratings that this has gotten, holy crap, we're talking about legit bottom of the barrel, where apparently it received a cinema score of a D and half a star on post-track. And not only that, but even when you go to Rotten Tomatoes, you will see that not only does the tomato meter say that only 33%, 1/3 of critics who have reviewed it gave it a positive review, but when it comes to audiences' reactions on the popcorn meter, only 31% of people who put in a review or put in a rating said that they liked it. So yeah, the numbers have been extremely low with what Joker Folie à Deux has gotten. But then came the box office score. Now, you might be wondering, how well did it actually do at the box office? Now, I know some of you may probably know the answer, but let's just say hypothetically, you guys don't know yet. Okay, well, it didn't do well. Okay, so like a lot of people are calling it a really bad movie. So how did it do at the box office? Did people go and see it anyways? Especially with the fact that box office analysts actually predicted that its opening weekend would do $70 million. They think it would actually do pretty well. Maybe not as well as the first movie, but, still it would do pretty decently as is. On its own, it would still be pretty strong. I mean, a $70 million opening at the box office is still quite impressive. But after the reactions and after how things have gone during the weekend, the result, honestly, no. It is much worse than you can imagine. Because after the first day, people were thinking, okay, maybe it's not that good. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be on track to just $47 million. What actually happened? $40 million. It still opened pretty well at the box office. I mean, it still opened in first place, but still, though, it only started off with just $40 million, which is only over half of what box office analysts were initially thinking it would go and do. So already it is right on track to become one of the biggest box office or one of the biggest cinematic disasters of the year, alongside Megalopolis. Now, before I continue, I just want to go and make one quick comment, and I just want to state right now that I have not seen Joker Folie à Deux. I cannot go and comment on the movie itself or discuss about the quality of the movie. It as you probably know, it was my birthday weekend, and I wanted to make sure that my birthday, I wanted to have a good birthday weekend. So I'm not going to let Todd Phillips go and try to interrupt that whatsoever. So I just want to make sure that I can have a great time, and I'm not going to go and check out Joker Folie à Deux. And at this point, I stated before that I wanted to wait until what the word of mouth was going to be. And for the looks of it, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be checking that out anytime soon. So I personally cannot comment on Joker Folie à Deux in itself. I can, however, comment on its performance and say, holy crap, is it bad? Like, I could even debatably say that this is getting a lot more hate than Megalopolis is getting right now. Like, it really is that bad. And I think the massive indicator, like one thing that honestly shocks me is actually the cinema score of what it would get, or like what audiences would go and actually say. You know, the fact that it got a D in the cinema score, that I feel like it is such a massive accomplishment. That is one thing that I gotta say, it is just absolutely shocking to go and see. And the reason why is because when it comes to cinema scores, it's actually very easy to go and get something that would be positive. Like, on average, like, it's very common that you would find a movie that would get like an A rating, like somewhere like A or A minus, or even The Covenant A plus. Like, that does commonly happen, especially when it comes to animated movies. Like, think of a recent movie right now, and there is actually a very good chance that its rating is going to be closer to A or something like that. Even when there is a movie that would get like a B, or they would get a B plus or something like that is something that, you know, movie fans would go and check out and be like, ooh, that's a little bit concerning right there. I don't know. Is the movie really that good? Not sure. You know, and again, that's like if the movie would have like a B or a B plus. But getting a D? Getting a godforsaken D? I feel like that is something that you would have to try. Like, you would, honest to God, actually try to ensure that you would need to get that bad of a score. Like, even some of the movies nowadays that have been absolutely hated, stuff like Madam Web didn't even get a D. Like, even Megalopolis got a D plus. But getting a D? Like, you'd have to purposely make a movie that would be that hated in order to go and get that score. Like, it is legendary to get a D, you know, to get that D on cinema score. No pun intended, by the way. I'm not making any kind of sexual jokes with that. Like, yeah, it got, like, this is honestly a case where a movie got the D in the worst way imaginable right over here. So honestly, like, you would see like this hate, like, you would see how the ratings that audiences would go and get, like, it is you know, like, worse and worse and worse. And I know a lot of people would go and comment, like, you know, there's a lot of different reactions in terms of Rotten Tomatoes. And I know everybody would go and question, like, they would go and question the viability of Rotten Tomatoes, especially when it comes to the audience score and stuff like that. I completely get it. But still, though, it's kind of fascinating to see how the rating would be this bad. And it's not even something that would be politically charged. You know, it's not something that is related to toxic fandoms or anything like that. No, this is just audience. This really is a case where it is audiences' genuine reactions, where they would see something that, yeah, no, they just really don't like it. They just thought that it's pretty bad. Yeah, like some people are saying in the chat wall, like, yeah, it's pretty legit. And you know, the crazy thing is that I can even vouch, like, even without these sources right there, like, I've actually heard from word of mouth directly that things are really going bad for Joker Folie à Deux. Like, I actually have a friend who works at a cinema. And he actually told me that during the weekend, he was absolutely shocked seeing people walk out of Joker Folie à Deux while the movie was still playing. Like, it's in the middle of it and people just gave up on it and walked out. Now, granted, it is very rare for him to see someone in general walking out of a movie. Like, those are cases that would be extremely rare, almost unheard of for him. But in the case of Joker Folie à Deux, it is actually surprisingly common. And even during the weekend, he saw, like, one day after another, people just giving up, bailing out, and walking out of Joker Folie à Deux. So yeah, honestly, it's a case, like, even I have never heard of a case like that. Like, even when I would go and see a movie, I almost never see people walk out during the middle of a movie. And I mean, like, I'm very stronghold when it comes to like watching films. I'm dedicated to go and watch it to the end. I don't think I've ever seen a movie where like I would go like I hate it so much to the point that I would have to walk out. Even on like some of the worst animated films like the Emoji Movie, Norm of the North, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, like I still managed to try to stick to the end because I got to do my job for my review. But with Joker Folie à Deux, oh boy, it looks like it's one of those films that people just cannot tolerate, especially when it comes to that ending. Again, I haven't heard what happened. I don't know what happened in that ending, but apparently it really pissed people off to the point that they just cannot accept Joker Folie à Deux. But still, it is interesting though. Why is it that it even became a failure in the first place? And, I just wanted to go and check out like what would be the cause. And honestly, this article from Deadline actually does explain quite a bit and actually brought up some pretty interesting cases. And it's actually right over here where I would go and often point out the D score on Cinema Score, in which it says, the failure of Joker Folie à Deux is as clear as an azure sky in the deepest summer. No fan of the original movie wanted to see a musical sequel, Mr. Phillips, period. There isn't enough lipstick to put on this Joker to indicate that it's any kind of a win. The original fans of the film, which, let's face it, are fanboys and men, because they bought the tickets at 60%, kicked this clown to the street with a D cinema score and a half a star at post-track. Anyone feeling Megalopolis deja vu from last week? You're not imagining things. That movie received a D+ cinema score. The difference here, of course, is that Warner spent more marketing than Zoetrope and Lionsgate to get this Joaquin Phoenix Lady Gaga sequel to some cultural global relevance. And then it would go on to go and discuss like a major factor in terms of the campaign, where they also stated one major flaw, and like probably the thing that really sealed its fate, is actually when it premiered at the Venice Film Festival. And that's the thing where it says, the biggest promotional cardinal sin of them all, launching this sequel, which didn't have the goods at the Venice Film Festival. Why would any studio put up a movie out there and let it sit on Rotten Tomatoes for a month with bad reviews? Sources tell Sources tell me it was all part of Warner Brothers appeasing Phillips, which is why they allowed him to make this auteurish Stephen Sondheim-like feature in the first place. Between the Hangover franchise and Joker, Warner Brothers has reaped $2.5 billion off of Phillips' fare at the box office. What do you do with a director who's done that much to you? Give him the final cut. And that is a major factor of this. It's and that's a major factor to its downfall and to its bad reception. It's the fact that they treated this like an auteur film. They wanted to treat Todd Phillips as like the next Martin Scorsese or as the next Quentin Tarantino, and they wanted Joker Folie à Deux to be like this next big Oscar contender, that it's like such an artistic feature that not only would it go and reap a lot at the box office, but even later on during award season as well, where it would get all these awards and stuff like that. Like they're hoping to recreate that same magic with the first Joker movie. It's a little bit like a similar mistake that reminds me of back in the early 1990s when Disney was so like hyped up after like the award season with Beauty and the Beast, where it was nominated for best picture, and then they were hoping that with Pocahontas that they would go and recreate that same magic, but ultimately they kind of didn't. And but then again, you could argue Pocahontas still became a pretty successful movie, but with Joker Folie à Deux, that is not the case. That is like an extreme example that really takes that to the next level. And yeah, especially with the fact that with the Venice Film Festival, like it premiered, like I think it was back like in August, where they showed the movie. And then from there, that's where the word of play truly kicked in. That's where you see the word of mouth, like letting it simmer, especially like in Rotten Tomatoes, where the reviews of that were honestly not that great. And then at that point, it's just the word of mouth continuously going again and again, where it's not necessarily that cinematic masterpiece that Warner Brothers was hoping for. And from there, like, especially like, it was like what, over a month or something like that they showed Joker Folie à Deux at the Venice Film Festival. And from there, they just let it just sit there to let audience, to let people register in their heads that Joker Folie à Deux is not a great movie and didn't really gather that much great reviews in the first place. And keep in mind, like, during the Venice Film Festival, like, it had double what it had here. Like, it was like on the cusp of like more or less 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. But then when all the other reviews officially came out, that's when things like really went down, and there was a lot more negative reviews that were given to Joker Folie à Deux, which in that regards, it ultimately led to what we see right over here, where the box office results, it ultimately leads it to become a disaster. And not to mention of the fact that the movie has a stupidly huge budget of $200 million. Seriously, like this is more than double what the first Joker had in terms of its budget, or I think even more. So already, like $200 million, I think it is safe to say that Warner Brothers is not getting it back. I mean, they've already, I'm not worried about Warner Brothers because they're already covered with Beetlejuice being a tremendous hit. But still, though, whatever they gain from Beetlejuice, they might have to go and pay for the L's that they got on Joker Folie à Deux. Someone did correct me, by the way. It was apparently $190 million. Okay, so close to $200 million. And it's honestly insane because with Joker Folie à Deux, it is actually a bigger disaster than the Marvels, because a lot of people really love using the Marvels as an example of a disaster for Marvel. The fact that, Marvel used to be so great at the box office, but now they can only make box office disasters, and the Marvels is a great example. But even the Marvels was able to do better, not only getting better reception from critics and audiences. I mean, they don't say great things about it, but definitely better things than Joker Folie à Deux. But on top of that, the Marvel's opening was 46.1 million, and even states more people saw Marvel's at 3.3 million admissions in its opening weekend, versus Joker 2's 2.5 million per intelligence. So yeah, like, it's not just bad. Like, it is this is among one of the worst performing films in the superhero genre, or technically in the comic superhero genre, considering that it does count as a DC film. So yeah, a lot of people will try to use that as use the Marvels as an example of like, oh, we can't have an all-girl superhero movie. Yeah, but we can't really have but with Joker Folie à Deux, it's like an all-girl superhero movie. It's much better than a superhero movie starring a guy who embodies right-wing incel ideologies. Women got the W on that one right there. So in that regards, it's just crazy to see how bad things are going. And just like on a quick side note, I just want to mention, like, on a positive end, you look at The Wild Robot, and this is another example of the positive side of word of mouth, where on its second weekend, it only dropped by 47.8%, which it made on the weekend 18.7 million. And that's actually very good, because whenever there's any movie out there that when they go from their first to second weekend and the drop is less than 50%, then in that regards, that's already a pretty solid win. And while with The Wild Robot, yeah, like, it's not like, I wouldn't say like it's a tremendous success, again, in the levels of like Despicable Me 4 or Inside Out 2, still, I gotta say with The Wild Robot, it is, it's still doing very well. And again, it is definitely on track to become a success in its own right. And a big part of that is because of positive word of mouth. In fact, I'm just going to say right now, I wouldn't be surprised if down the line this month, we're going to see The Wild Robot actually exceed Joker Folie à Deux, that no matter where it's going to be placed, we're going to see The Wild Robot be above Joker Folie à Deux. So yeah, I just want to go and make a comment on that because it's very fascinating to see, once again, the power of word of mouth and how it can affect a movie, rather it be in a positive way or in a negative way. So with that said, now I would like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the downfall of Joker Folie à Deux? And especially if you have seen the movie, I would love to know what you think of it. Now, I don't really have a lot of time left, so I'll do my best to read like as much as I can. I've never been so disappointed to a movie in a very long time. I've seen Joker Folie à Deux on Thursday night in IMAX, and it was bad. The only good thing about the movie was the opening by Sylvain Chomet paying homage to Looney Tunes. Speaking of the latter, I got my tickets to the North American premiere of The Day the Earth Blew Up at Animation is Film Festival, my most anticipated film for me this month, and my early birthday gift to me. Awesome. If the Marvel's bombing because of the strikes means that nobody is interested in female lead superhero comic book movies with people of color, does Joker 2 bombing worse than the Marvels despite not coming out during the strikes mean nobody is interested in male leads in comic book movies with white people? Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Warner Brothers either didn't learn that Todd Phillips is bad at sequels after Hangover Part 2 and 3, or they did, and they let him make it because they really don't like money. You know, the funny thing is that I did hear rumors that Todd Phillips really did not want to make this movie, and this is just like his way of saying, no, I don't want to do franchises, please leave me alone. Like, Todd Phillips purposely made this movie bad, and in a way, you know, pulled like, he pulled his own Joker by trolling everyone with a bad Joker film to make everyone miserable. All right. It looks like this clown is out of court. Jokes aside, this was bad, and while I should be upset about this, I would rather be with the Transformers fans and encourage others to go watch 1. Don't believe me? Look up Twitter, use Transformers Hype Guy, who is determined to get Transformers 1 to be successful to the point where it is trending. Oh, absolutely. Honestly, I love Transformers 1, and that honestly deserves to have more attention. If anything, I feel like it deserves to be as successful as The Wild Robot. So yeah, honestly, yeah, let's get that trend going. You know what? Let's make Transformers 1 more successful than Joker Folie à Deux. Can we go and do that? Let's go and try to do that. Even as someone who likes the first movie, the sequel was a massive disappointment, and I'm honestly not that surprised it flopped. Between the negative reception and the fact nobody demanded a sequel to Joker, and it felt corporately demanded by Warner Brothers, it being a musical and the huge budget, so overall this is a disaster. Seriously, it's embarrassing. It's not going to get any better with some competition coming like Venom: The Last Dance in late October. Oh yeah, no, for sure it won't. Like it's gonna be gone. Like I would not be surprised if this is one of those movies that, but like sometime soon after Halloween or close to or like somewhere around Halloween, Warner Brothers is gonna release the film digitally. I feel like that could be the case. Anyways, I'll read 2 more comments and then we'll go out. I barely heard much of the plot of this movie before its release, and even I knew it wasn't going to be successful. I could even say I got a review of it from a friend of mine that said, the acting and Gaga's songs were great, including the cartoon opening, the best scene, you would have loved it though, there is no plot structure, and the script is terrible, and they didn't hesitate to tell me the end. Either way, nobody would have cared, and I felt like I'm not surprised about it. Should I tell you? All right, let's see, one more comment here. Yeah, I might as well go with, let's see, just want to make sure. Okay, I'll go. Yeah, you know what? I'll go with this one. I'm going to take a wild guess as to why the Joker sequel as a musical did not fare well on the big screen. And in doing so, I'm going to guess that maybe it shouldn't have been a stage musical. It should have been a stage musical instead. And not to change the subject, Matt, but I loved your Wild Robot review because the day you uploaded that review was in fact my birthday, a day before yours. And after coming out of an upper scope, I think it was the best gift I ever watched. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Hey, you're welcome, dude. I'm glad that you enjoyed my review. And honestly, it's one of those things, like, honestly, this is why I love making videos. It's honestly reactions like that. And I mean, if I can make your day with my videos, that honestly means so much to me. And with that said and done, that should do it for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And I want to say thank you all so much for joining me on this fun-filled adventure, and hopefully we could go and do this again on the next episode. And I just want to go and say that if you guys enjoyed your time here on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, then don't forget to go and subscribe me on my YouTube channel of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast and the AniMat Live Twitch channel. And don't forget, if you want to go and support my work and have some amazing rewards, including but not limited to seeing my videos before anyone else, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/animat. And at the same time, if you guys are listening to this on whatever podcast service you're listening to, don't forget to go and follow me there as well, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, on Amazon, or many others. Whatever you're listening to, don't forget to go and follow me there. And with that said and done, I would like to go and say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.